What's up, everybody? Welcome into More Sports, driven by the Crane Automotive Team. Glad you're with us. Tonight, we are talking about the offensive line. We just got through listening to Cade Kittler, Malachi Breland, and one of the offensive line coaches, Marcus Johnson, discuss what they had to say. Cade Kittler had some really cool things to say. I liked Coach Marcus Johnson's comments. We'll hit on those. Got some thoughts on Hunter Yurchek turning down the Little Rock Touchdown Club. We'll take a look at the depth chart for Arkansas as it best guess right now for the offensive line. A lot to hit on, so let's go ahead and get started.
All Arkansas, all sports. It's More Sports, driven by the Crane Automotive Team.
All right, we'll get to Hunter Yurchek here in a bit. I want to focus in on the offensive line. We'll save that for later. If you want to jump in here, we're live tonight. So if you got some questions, some comments about the offensive line, you want to hit me up, say hello, let's go. I'll be taking a look at the comments throughout the show. First of all, we'll start with Cade Kittler, returning starter at center. First things first, when they walked in, they were talking about the haircuts. I think we've all seen the haircuts. Cade's kind of trimmed his up, and I think there's one guy left maybe that's got the check marks in his head, but for the most part, it's kind of been cleaned up, but they had a lot of fun with it. Cade said he was just wanting to do something kind of cool his last year, always wanted to do a haircut, and decided, heck, why not? This is my last year. Let's do it. Cade may have had the quote of the day. He said that when asked about coming back to Arkansas instead of entering the transfer portal, he first said he was going to sit tight, see who was hired, who the offensive line coach was that would be coaching the group, and didn't want to make basically a rush to judgment. And when Silverfield was hired, he was excited. He called one of the players that hosted him, Cade Kittler, when he visited Memphis in high school, and just, hey, picked his brain. What do you think about Coach Silverfield? What do you think about his offensive line coach? Got kind of a seal of approval and decided to stay at Arkansas. And then once he met with Coach Silverfield and the offensive line coaches, he knew he wanted to stay. And he said, but besides, I love Arkansas. We want to finish what we started last year. He's one of those guys with the bad taste in their mouth. None of those guys, when the season started, thought they were going to go 2-10. I think they're still shocked about what happened with last year, as we all are. But he said, we want to rewrite Arkansas history. That was kind of the title of the thumbnail on YouTube. Rewrite Arkansas history and be a part of something special. That's all you want from these guys, to try to turn things around, to be that group that leads them out of the basement, that gets things turned around. And when guys say that, and that's one of the reasons I stayed, I can appreciate that. And I think fans can appreciate that too. Some other notes from Cade said that they are physical on both sides of the ball. And he says, good. Some days the offensive line wins, some days the defensive line wins. And Marcus Johnson said the same thing. He admitted that some days the defensive line gets the best of them, but there are days the offensive line gets the best of the defensive line. He said that you really want that. He said, think about it. If one group is dominating the other's probably not very good. And that's not good for the team. And he said, we have a good defensive line. I want to make sure I quoted him right. A solid defensive line. He said, we got a solid defensive line. Our offensive line is ready for the SEC. He was asked specifically about Bryant Williams, about Malachi Breland, good players that have started, but in the group of five. Are they ready for the SEC? And that was the way he responded to it. He feels like Arkansas's defensive line is a solid group, and it's getting those guys ready to play in the SEC. Also got to hear from Malachi Breland, who was there at Memphis. They touched on the heat, and Breland said, I'm kind of used to this. We practiced at Memphis last year at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm used to these 3 o'clock practices, and we feel like this is only going to make us better because we're going to be playing some games in the afternoon. First game of the year, right? They're going to be playing in the afternoon. The Georgia game, it'll be 11 o'clock, and by the time you get in the second half, it's going to be hot, most likely. And they feel like that's giving them advantage over some of the other teams who may be choosing to play or practice in the mornings or in the late afternoons, evenings when it's starting to cool off. But they seem to be fully grasping and appreciating the fact that they're basically practicing in the heat of the day. The hottest time of the day is 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when they're finishing up their practices. They discussed about the two coaches, and they both really like having two different coaches, two different voices, and they work with the different coaches all the time. Sometimes one coach, let's say Marcus Johnson, will take the tackles. The next day he may take the guards, but they are. And Coach Johnson made a point of saying this, just because you see they're trotting out the same five day after day after day. This week they've started trying some other guys, working in the other guys at those positions. And he mentioned Cash Courtney working with some of the starters. He mentioned Terrence Robertson moving up, working with some of the starters. Brooks Edmondson he talked about too. What he felt like was, very rarely in football do you begin the season with five starting offensive line and you finish the season with those five starting offensive linemen because of injuries. And he said, we've got to be able to plug in place some different guys. And that's what we're doing right now. We're getting Cash Courtney ready in case somebody goes down at guard or center, he can step in. The same with Edmondson, the same with Robertson. Very pleased with his tackles too, the backup tackles, Adam Hawks and Josiah Clemens. He raved about Clemens. He said, and Cash Courtney, he said Josiah Clemens has a bright future. He said there's things that he has you just can't coach. And so Josiah Clemens, maybe not this year with Broussard, maybe at some point he takes the job away or something happens to Broussard. But they feel like they have a very special guy. And you go back, I remember saying it, there's a reason why they took Josiah Clemens from Memphis that didn't play last year. I believe he redshirted. I'll look on the roster. I don't know if Josiah Clemens hit the field at all last year. And he is a big human being. He is, I'll find his numbers and look at what he's listed at. But for a tackle, 6'7", 341. Oh, he did play last year. He's listed as a sophomore. So, but anyway, he didn't play a lot for Memphis. And there was something they saw in him in practice to want to bring him to Arkansas. They knew at the time, they felt like this is a guy with SEC talent. He can play in the SEC. And that was one of the guys that Marcus Johnson raved about. He talked a little bit about the freshmen and said, they're feeling their way. I expect all the freshmen to redshirt this year, get a year under the belt, learn the offense. They have to learn the offense. That's the biggest thing. And then they got to grow. They just got to mature physically and get more strength. But when you look, and we will look at this so-called two deep here in a few minutes, I don't think you need any of the freshmen. I think this is an ideal situation where, and Coach Silverfield understands this. They discussed that too, about Silverfield having his hands, getting in there with the offensive line. In fact, at one point, Kate Kittler says, in a way, it's like we got 3-4 offensive line coaches, because Coach Silverfield, he is all about the details. How many times have you heard that? By the way, Marcus Johnson said that too. Like, what do you like about Coach Silverfield? What kind of coach is he? He's like, well, the details are going to be taken care of. Focused on the details. Anyway, Kate Kittler was like, I may have my left hand down in a certain position, and coach will come over there and move it over like 3 inches. But no, this is where your hand needs to be. It's the small details like that he feels like Coach Silverfield that also helps the offensive line with. Let me go through Bryant, Marcus Johnson. Anything else that we haven't hit on yet before we move on? Talked about the depth and trying to build depth. Kavion Broussard, he was asked about him. He said, man, he is just athletic and has very quick hands, and he has finally learned to use his hands. That's been the biggest difference from the spring into the fall, trusting his hands because his hands are so good. And Bryant Williams, he said, man, he is big, powerful, but he's patient. He lets the guys kind of come to him, but because he's so big and powerful, he's able to handle that rush. And man, he said, man, this is a solid group. That was his quote. We have a solid group with depth behind it. And when you hear a coach say that, that makes you feel a little bit better about what they have, the 5, then 3, 4, 5 guys behind them. They feel like they can play if they're forced to play. We'll take a look at the depth chart what I feel like is their main guys in just a second. Real quick, I want to thank our sponsors, the Crane Automotive Team, title sponsor. You're thinking about a new vehicle, please give them your first shot. They support me. I want you to support them. The Crane Automotive Team helps keep Arkansas moving. 16 different locations around the state and a wide selection of cars, trucks, and SUVs. It's easy to find the right vehicle close to home, and every vehicle is backed with the Crane commitment, giving you confidence long after you drive off the lot. Visit craneteam.com today. Centennial Bank, strength, consistency, and a commitment to building trust. For generations, Arkansans have relied on Centennial Bank. Centennial Bank is built on relationships that last. Discover the strength of a bank that believes trust is earned every day. Visit my100bank.com or stop by your local Centennial Bank member, FDIC. And when it comes to protecting what matters most to me, I trust A+ Alarm and Security Services. I've been using them for 20 years, never an issue. They deliver reliable protection. A+ Alarm truly is the key to peace of mind. Call them at 851-7587 or visit aplusalarm.net today. All right, let's hit on the depth chart. And be sure I got that up. Oh, we do have some comments. I can do that real quick. First one up right here. Put it on the screen for everybody. Tim says, do we have a smaller size overall lines than the rest of the SEC? Now, I'm sure there are some huge lines in the SEC. I saw it the other day. The biggest lines in the SEC, I think it was Georgia and Texas, which they're fighting it out. I'll show you the numbers right now that Arkansas has them listed, and I'm fairly confident these numbers are correct, that these are the ones they just used from the end of summer when they weighed everybody and measured everybody for their height. And I'll go to the offensive line. I'll blow that up so you can see it a little bit better. This is all the offensive linemen. We'll start with Cade Kittler, the first one, number 50. I would say Cade just looks a little smaller than everybody else. Cade's 52, by the way. 6'3", 303. A little smaller than everybody else, 6'3", 303. But that's fine. That's what you want for your center. And let me say this to you real quick. They talked a lot about this today. I didn't mention it. They're throwing a lot of stuff out into the flat and wide receiver screens, and these linemen are pulling and getting out there and blocking, maybe a tunnel screen for the wide receiver. So they want offensive linemen that are quick, agile, that can get out into space. And that's maybe one of the reasons they may not be as big, but that's not their philosophy. They're not a team that's just going to one-on-one blocking and try to push them for 3 yards. They do a lot of zone blocking, inside zone blocking. And so you want guys that can move around a little bit. Kobe Branham, 6'5", 336. He can stack up with anybody in the SEC. Cash Courtney, 6'4", 301, probably a little lighter. Adam Hawks is the transfer from Oregon, playing out in right tackle, 6'6", 306. Then you got your freshmen. I don't expect to play, whether it's Clayton, Banga, Nance. They did talk highly about Bramlage. They like Bramlage a lot. Then you have Bryant Williams, 6'7", 335 at right tackle. That's not small. That's I would say, an average size SEC lineman. More freshmen. Malachi Breland's a big guy, 6'5", 334. So I would 6'4", 313 for Brooks Edmondson. Terrence Robertson, 6'6", 322. And Broussard, he is athletic looking at 6'6", 312. So they're all over 300 pounds. Now 6'6", 312 is stretched out a little bit, but still, Broussard looks like left tackle, honestly. But no, I wouldn't say that they are an undersized offensive line, and I think they compare well to most SEC teams. Are they going to be smaller than the largest SEC team? Yeah, I think so. But I think they're big enough to handle any line, defensive line. Let's go. Tim says, can you give us a breakdown of our guards and what you think about them? Sure will. We'll hit that in just a second, Tim. Let's see here. Randy. What's up, Randy? Good to see you, man. Lack of details cost us multiple games the last couple seasons. Randy, yeah. I mean, you can go with penalties. Mississippi State game was disgusting. Just the lack of details and lining up correctly. I mean, how many pre-snap penalties did we see because the guy's not lined up correctly? And then you can go into details of just sloppy footwork and you're holding a guy, and that blows up a big play. How about the details of not getting the call right and a blitz comes in, the offensive line is confused, and you would have had a big play, but nobody picks up the blitzing linebacker. He's in Taylon Green's face. He can't make a play. So, yes, it's great to hear as football minds, details matter, and that is something that's being stressed, no doubt, by this staff. More questions, comments. We'll get to those in just a few minutes. I got some comments about Hunter Yurchek coming up in a few minutes after he turned down the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and we'll finish with that. All right, the two deep and the guards. Kate Kittler's your center. There's zero doubt about it unless something happens. And all this, just keep in mind, if injury happens, then, yeah, it all changes. But Kate Kittler is your center, back for a fifth year. That's all you could ask. This guy's played a lot of football last year at Arkansas, Central Florida. I feel very comfortable. I thought Kate Kittler played well last year. There was, yes, he made mistakes, but I don't think he was a big problem with the offensive line. On his left side will be Malachi Breland from Memphis, who's played in this offense, who knows this offense. They told a good story today. This morning, Kittler was making a call, and it was the wrong call. And Breland, because of his knowledge of the offense, corrected Kittler so that he could get the right call. And Kittler told the story to the media. And early, and a little later, no, it was earlier, Coach Johnson told the story also about how valuable it is to have Malachi Breland and all that experience in this offense. But he feels like, that was the question. He played, for Memphis. And Breland said too, look, I've played SEC teams. We've done that for the last couple of years at Memphis, and I feel like I've held my own. So I feel like I can play in the SEC. And then he realized one of the teams he played was Arkansas and beat Arkansas. Then on the other side of Kittler, you have Kobe Brenham, who the old staff raved about, played, as a freshman in the bowl game, then all of last season. He's ready to go at right guard. I love the interior. I mean, you think about all the starts that you have there with those three guys, and then go out to right tackle, which will probably be the blind side for KJ Jackson since he's left-handed. That's Bryant Williams. And he was rated one of the best tackles in the portal, played at Louisiana, Raging Cajun. Turns out he was a Razorback fan. And when they offered, he jumped all over it. But there were a lot of teams, good teams, that wanted Bryant Williams. I think that's a great pickup at right tackle, especially if your quarterback's going to be left-handed. But we've said it for weeks. We think the portal guys are good. They look good. Can they play? Can they play in the SEC? That's what we got to wait. That's what we got to wait for. Utah, Georgia. I mean, on paper, it looks like they've fixed a lot of issues and they've created some depth, and they got starters from Memphis and Louisiana. Guys from Memphis and Louisiana get drafted every year. They go to the NFL, have success in the NFL. Are those type of guys? Did they hit in the portal? And then on the other side, your left tackles, Kavion Broussard, Ole Miss transfer. So he's got a pedigree, right? He was highly recruited out of high school, signed with Ole Miss, came to Arkansas, and he was kind of the guy in the spring, and he's been the guy in the fall. And I think they're going to push him. And they want, here's your backups, Josiah Clemens, who I talked about, from Memphis. That coach said he has a bright, bright future. They want him pushing Kavion Broussard, just making him get better and better every game. Terrence Robertson from Warren, who played at Ouachita Baptist last year. He started out at tackle. They've moved him inside to guard for now. But Coach Marcus Johnson said, we're teaching him everything. We're not going to limit where he plays. He may be a tackle one day. We just think he's a guard for right now. But he may end up being a tackle at one point. Cash Courtney's your center. And I think if they didn't have Cade Kittler, Kobe Brenham, and Malachi Breland inside, those three guys with all that experience, Cash Courtney would be starting. That's how good I feel about him, and that's how good this staff feels about him. If Kittler, Brenham, or Breland go down, Cash is the first guy in. He is the kind of swing interior guy. But Cash Courtney's a future starter for Arkansas, no doubt. Cade Kittler next year when he's gone, I think you can go ahead and push in Cash Courtney as your starting center. Brooks Edmondson out of Bryant. Remember, he played in the bowl game. He's gotten snaps. He's a fifth-year senior. He's back again. They've been working him into the starting lineup. valuable backup. And then Adam Hawks, he's at right tackle behind Bryant Williams. Hawks came from Oregon. Another guy, highly recruited, didn't get the chance to play. Hawks comes, and now he's lining up most of the time that second right tackle. And he is younger, so he would be kind of the heir apparent for Bryant Williams when he's gone next year. So, guys, that's 10 guys I just named. Your 5 starters, and each has a backup that they're comfortable with. That's depth. That's what Coach Marcus Johnson said. He feels like they have a solid offensive line that's being tested by a solid defensive line, and they've got depth behind it. So it should make you feel a little bit better about the team, at least with depth. We'll see if they can play, if they can be a good SEC offensive line. All right. So we found out today the lineup for the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and it is outstanding once again. David Basil just continues to do it year after year, and it's been pretty impressive to watch what he has done. And I was proud when I saw the lineup. Emmitt Smith, Lynn Swan, you got Doug Flutie, John Tyson. How much fun will that be? I mean, it is. It's a great lineup. Anyway. And there's a mystery guest. We spent a lot of time today on the radio having a lot of fun trying to guess who that mystery guest will be on October 12th, I want to say it was. But anyway, we found out that Hunter Yurchek declined David Basil and the Little Rock Touchdown Club this year and will not be speaking. They went back and looked. It's the first time since 2009 the Arkansas athletic director hasn't spoken at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. And, no one knows exactly why Hunter Yurchek decided to decline, but there's a lot of people guessing after what he said last year that, Sam Pittman didn't have the resources to compete in the SEC. That came back to haunt him, not only at that time and the weeks to follow, and had to talk to the board of trustees about it, but also I think it hurt him when he was searching for a new head coach. When it's out there that you don't have the resources to compete in the SEC, why in the heck would anybody want to come and coach at Arkansas? He had to convince them that was changing, and it was going to change. I don't care if Hunter Yurchek comes and speaks to the Little Rock Touchdown Club. I don't really care what he has to say, just to be honest with you. I mean, I look at it as a fan that likes to talk football, listen to football, and hear these guys. To me, it opens up an opportunity for somebody else, a big name, to come in and to entertain us on some Monday. As a member of the media, it's always good to hear from Hunter Yurchek because you never know what he's going to say. And so you're always listening intently. But just from a fan point of the Touchdown Club, I don't care that he's not coming. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. And I think a lot of Razorback fans are the same way. I don't know how well attended it would be, honestly. I don't know how many fans were dying to hear from Hunter Yurchek. Right now, his approval rating isn't very high. And so I don't think fans would be busting down the door to come see Hunter Yurchek. But I do believe it is his responsibility as the athletic director to speak at these events, that he needs to take advantage of talking to Razorback fans and pushing across the message of what Arkansas is doing, not only in football, but in all sports. I mean, let's face it, he did just get some stadium naming rights deal. He's got the patch deal. They have been doing things to raise some money. Heck, they just extended the All-In project. The goal was to raise $30 million over 3 years, and they're almost at 25 in 11 months. So they've pushed that from $30 million to $50 million. Well, there's something to brag about. There's something to talk about. And you never know who's in that audience. You never know who may be inspired to give. Maybe somebody changes their mind about Hunter Yurchek and says, you know what? I am all in. I am going to donate. I think this is a valuable opportunity that is wasted. And an athletic director, that is his job, to be talking to the fans. And it's not just the fans at the Touchdown Club. This is broadcast live over the Buzz statewide radio. People are listening to that. It is streamed on YouTube. There are people watching that. It is a chance to get your voice, your message out there to a lot of people. That is his job. He's the head of the department. And I don't care if the feelings were hurt. He was worried about saying something he shouldn't. You get there, you talk to fans. You use every opportunity. I think it's a failure. I think it's a bad move, and I think it's a dumb move, dumb decision, and he shouldn't be turning down the Touchdown Club. Y'all asked me for some one more thoughts. There you go. That was one more thought. Just get that off my chest. Shouldn't have done it. Shouldn't have done it. Let's see here. Tomorrow, quarterbacks. Get to hear from the quarterback coach. Find out about how these guys are doing. We're not going to find out who the starting quarterback is tomorrow. We're not going to find out if anyone is taking a lead. And especially, this is the quarterback coach. This isn't Cramsey, the offensive coordinator. It's not Silverfield. This is the quarterback coach, and I guarantee you, he's going to be so tight-lipped and worried about what he's saying. He's not going to give any clues of who has maybe inched ahead or maybe extended the lead. There's nothing huge like that coming out tomorrow, but we'll get to hear about maybe what the guys have been working on, what their strengths, weaknesses are, what he thinks of their throwing motion, that kind of stuff, et cetera. So quarterbacks tomorrow. Then another practice Saturday. Well, here I have the schedule right here. Let's see. Today was the offensive line. Tomorrow, the quarterbacks. Saturday's the linebackers. Yeah, that would be nice to hear. And then on Sunday's the scrimmage closed. Would love for that to be open and go up there and watch that scrimmage. But that's kind of the plan for the next couple of days. Hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like button on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube, over 2,100. We did. You guys did it. Thank you so much. You listened and you subscribed. I appreciate it. We'll be back here tomorrow night. I hope you can join us for more sports.
All Arkansas, all sports. It's more sports.